Welcome to episode 476 of the AMPM podcast. This is the final episode of the AMPM podcast with me, Kevin King, as your host. I am moving on to other things. Helium 10 and I, after 9.5 years, are going in some different directions. It's been a great ride. Helium 10 has been very good to me, and hopefully I've provided a lot of value to all of you guys as well. I still have another podcast, the Marketing Misfits podcast that I do with Norm, so you can still catch me over there. My guest this week, I thought it fitting that the very first time I hosted the AMPM podcast, I had Manny Coats, one of the co-founders of Helium 10 on, and this time I have his other co-partner and co-founder, Guillermo Puyol, is my guest to close this out. This is a great episode. Talk about the history of Helium 10, talk about what's happening now, about being an entrepreneur, about the ups and downs of having a good exit, and a whole lot more. I think you'll really enjoy this episode, especially you OGs that remember the good old days and know Manny and Guillermo. Enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
Welcome to the AMPM podcast. Welcome to the AMPM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
This week is a very special episode of the AMPM podcast for a number of reasons. I took over this podcast in June of 2022. It was so about 3.5 years now. I think it's about 180 some odd episodes every single week. And what was unique about me hosting this podcast is actually what got me started being this, so-called guru or authority figure or teacher, educator, whatever you want to call it, in the Amazon space. Because back in, I started selling on Amazon as a third-party seller in 2015. And back then, I was just keeping my head down, launching 5 brands. And there's this little Facebook group called the FBA High Rollers. And it's still around. And this group was a group that was around originally, I think, the AMPM podcast, and it eventually became part of Helium 10, and then it kind of evolved from there. But I remember I was in Miami. I was waiting for my now ex-wife to show up at the airport, and I had some time to kill, and I made a message in this group. And I basically was telling other people they're full of BS because they were saying something about landing pages. And I was like, no, that's not how it works, and this is how it works. You're not penalized. And I think Manny Coats, who was one of the co-founders of Helium 10, saw that post, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, Kevin, would you come on the AMPM podcast? We got this new podcast, a couple months into it or something at that point. Would you come on? And I was like, no, I listened to it, but I'm just a seller. I was like, no, just come on the podcast. So I came on the podcast. I had like the worst headset, the worst microphone, it sounded like I was in a tin can. I was sitting in my garage actually when I did it. And it was just horrible. But that podcast resonated with a lot of people, and it snowballed from there. And then as Helium 10 grew, Manny was getting a lot of requests to go and speak. He's like, I don't want to go and speak. I'm trying to grow a company here. I don't have time to go to all these. And he was picking the good ones, and just based on what his time was. And so he said, hey, I know this guy that was on my podcast. He can go and speak at some of these too. And so it was like ASGGG and a few others. He said, I went and spoke, and that's what set me off on this journey. And so when I took over the AMPM podcast, I had Manny on as my very first guest. I think it's episode 294. I thought that was right. And today, a lot of you may not know this, but this is the very last episode of me hosting the AMPM podcast. I've been doing stuff with Helium 10 for about 9 years, I guess. And 9.5 years, I guess, we had an official kind of a relationship where they're actually paying me money. And that is now ending. So this will be the very last episode of me hosting the AMPM podcast. I'm not sure what Helium 10 is going to do. I don't know if this podcast is going away. It's just going to be Serious Sellers with Bradley, or if they're going to have a different guest or host come in. I'm not quite sure, but I want to thank all of you for taking this journey with me and for coming on this and supporting this podcast. But today's guest, I thought it was only fitting to actually bring the other co-founder of Helium 10. And this is a guy that's always been behind the scenes. He's super smart. He's one of the smartest guys I know on the planet. I mean, this guy is like brilliant. And when it comes to marketing, when it comes to setting up systems, he's a no bullshit, one of the most honest, honorable guys I know, always doing the right thing. And he's the other co-founder of Helium 10. You might have, if you've been in this space for a while, you might have heard him on a couple of the early podcasts where he was on, the kind of like as the Ed McMahon or something. But I'm very honored that he accepted my invitation to come on today and speak. Guillermo Puyol is his name, and I'm super happy to welcome you, man, to the podcast. How you doing?
Thank you, Kevin. Man, that introduction. You put me in a tough spot to fulfill those expectations, but I really appreciate you having me. I appreciate our friendship, and man, when you said it's been over 9 years, it blows my mind. It's insane to me that it's been so long since we started this thing.
Well, I remember how we'll get into the Helium 10, but just our relationship. I remember the first time we met in person. I think I'd heard your name, or maybe I heard you on the podcast, but the first time I met you face to face, it was a concerned knock on my door. This guy shows up. This guy shows up at my door and knocking. Where's Manny? Those were his exact words, but it was something along those lines. Because back in so I did the first I was a guest. I think it was in March. We recorded it. I think it came out pretty quickly after that, March of 2016, and that summer, I think it was June or July, I can't remember which month, Manny had come to Austin, and you guys were meeting with the guys at amazing.com, I think. That was the main purpose. But Manny had come out, and I picked him up at the airport. We went and had barbecue. We went out that night and had a few adult beverages. And Manny, he had maybe one too many, and basically slept in. And you guys had a meeting or something the next day, and his girlfriend, now wife, Marianne, was trying to get a hold of him. Nobody could get a hold of him. You couldn't get a hold of him. And all y'all knew was like this strange guy whose Facebook profile picture was a dog, picture of a dog. You had no idea what this guy looks like. And your best buddy and your business partner may be in some dungeon tied up at some guy's house. And you tracked me down. You remember that story?
Oh, I do. I mean, I thought you had... I mean, we didn't know you at all. So this dude from the internet kidnaps my business partner. He's nowhere to be found. Yeah, definitely. It was concerning, but shortly after, I mean, there's little things in life that gives you a lot of information. In that moment, whenever in that trip, I don't know if you recall that there was something wrong with my charger for my laptop or my battery or something, and you took it upon yourself to hey Guy, I got this, and you drove to the Apple store and you bought me the whatever I needed. So it's funny how little signals like that tell you the kind of person that you are. You dropped everything and you helped me out. I was in a bind, and you took care of that. So I think it's kind of cool how you start getting to know people and what they're about. So that told me you were not a total weirdo. I mean, you are kind of a weirdo.
Yeah. And I think sometime right after that, y'all were growing. You started Helium 10, like 2015, right? Because you and Manny did some gaming stuff together. That's how y'all met, right?
Yeah. I think the first dollar that came through the system was April of 2016, but we had been working on it since end of 2015, I believe.
Yeah, because Manny was originally, y'all were doing gaming stuff, and then he saw this opportunity on Amazon, so he kind of pivoted and started an Amazon brand selling socks and diffusers and stuff like that. And then as part of that, he started the AM/PM podcast, Was that when you started the AMPM podcast? Was that the original intent? Was him just documenting his stuff, or was that, hey, we need to build an audience to build a software tool, or was it that came later?
How far back do you want me to go?
Go back. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so man, it actually goes back to Flappy Bird. So when Flappy Bird, the little bird going through the pipes, that game was successful. I found that the programmer was a Vietnamese guy, and he was crushing it. I think he was making like $35,000 a day in ads.
Wow.
And my wife and I were in a really tough spot financially. It was like a series of unfortunate events, and I didn't have two pennies to rub together. So looking at this success, I was like, maybe I could do this. So I started making a game, kind of a Flappy Bird clone, worked on it on my spare time, and finally released it and made a total of like $3. I don't know. It was horrible. It was just so bad. But it was enjoyable. Like, I actually had fun making the game. And so I was telling my wife, like, making a game is a gamble. And it was one that I couldn't afford because I was putting a lot of time and energy and effort, and I didn't have the funds to market it correctly. So I said, why don't I just start making games for other people? So I made myself available on Upwork or whatever it was called back then. And this guy from Spain ended up hiring me for his game. So instead of replying like with a generic message to his job posting, I actually took the time to build a small prototype. I replied to him, and I noticed that he says something in Spanish in his post. So I gave him the answer in Spanish. So he ended up hiring me. We worked on this game together for about a year, and we got to know each other during this process. And towards the end of this process, which was, I think, Christmas 2014, he's like, hey, Guillermo, it's been great getting to know you. You definitely should meet my cousin. He's a crazy guy from California. He has published hundreds of mobile games. You guys would get along really well. And I think he's looking for a Unity developer right now. So he made the intro, and his crazy cousin was Manny. And so Manny, in his own style, of course, we talked, and he told me, hey, I'm starting again like tomorrow. Take it or leave it. This is the offer. And I remember he actually wrote in the one-pager contract, I told him, hey, dude, I can work with you, but I don't have an iMac. All my builds are through a virtual computer. So in the
you going to like library and doing it?
No, I was actually working on a PC, and because in order to build apps for Mac or for iPhone, you need a Mac to sign the build.
Right.
So I would upload it, do it on a virtual computer, and it was a mess, man. So Manny actually wrote, this is the fee for the game, and out of the goodness of my heart, I will buy your computer. That was actually in writing.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So he bought a computer, and we started working together. And at first, there was very little communication because I was one of many. But we got to know each other through that process of building that game. And I would tell Manny, hey, dude, I cannot work on the game this weekend. I have to go sourcing. And at first he didn't ask me what the hell I was talking about. But on the side, I would go to like garage sales and thrift shops and even brick and mortar like Targets and stuff like that to source items to either sell on Amazon for retail arbitrage, or I would sell them on OfferUp or eBay, whatever was the best place to, honestly, to make ends meet. Because as I said, we were in a really tough financial spot. So we started talking about it, and eventually mine was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you sourcing? What is that you're doing? So I told him, like, I'm selling on Amazon, I'm selling on eBay, and this is the process. And he's like, well, there's got to be a better way. That sounds like a grind. It's like, there is a better way. It's called private label. So you have to go find a supplier, figure out what's hot, find a supplier, slap your brand on it, and order half a container or a container, and then try your luck. So I can't afford to order half a container. So that was kind of the seed behind this whole thing. During that year of building the game, the market for mobile games was getting super hard because there was this huge company like Zynga, and they were acquiring a lot of indie developers, and they had a massive budget to like push games to the front. So the little indie games were never seen. So at one point, honestly, we had worked on the game very close to a year. And Manny and I getting to know each other, getting along, liking each other, we realized that we had a lot of similarities in our background, doing affiliate marketing, doing intermarketing, doing things online, just kind of finding opportunities, right? And I was on a trip away with my wife. Don't remember when. I get a call from Manny, and he's like, "Hey, Guy, how do you feel about pulling the plug on the game and just doubling down this whole Amazon thing? You've been talking about it with, I don't like how things are looking on the game space, but I feel like a lot of the things that we've learned in this space could translate to selling products on Amazon." So I said, I like the idea, but I don't like it as an employee, because at that point in time, I was Manny's employee, contractor doing this game thing. It's like, I'd be happy to join you as a partner. So we partnered up, and Manny was footing the bill for everything. So it was, I was at 30%, he has 70%. And we started with the intention of building an audience. At one point in time, we started doing a Periscope. Do you remember that?
Yeah. We did one here in Austin. Y'all were at that 2016, that summer. It was me, you, I think Mark, maybe Brian Johnson, and we like jumped on Periscope at some bar.
There you go. Yeah, so we started doing Periscope very close to the time of the beginnings of the podcast. So it was trying to find an audience, and the goal was to build Manny's Amazon brand in public. Very transparently, talking about what he did right, what he did wrong. If he messed up, which was pretty often, we'd just talk about it. Instead of painting the everything is sunshine and rainbow story, which a lot of people were doing at the time, we just talked about what went right, what went wrong. And the goal was to build an audience around that and eventually monetize that audience. That was kind of how we started. Then at one point in time, and because Manny was testing things and trying to sell more, I think he set up a goal. I think it was $25,000 in sales in the first quarter or something like that, and he did like 75,000 in the first month. So please don't quote me on this. You can go back to the first episodes. I'm sure it's documented. The numbers are almost irrelevant at this point, but he was doing well. And at one point in time, he messed up his listing. He was trying to optimize it, and it was spreadsheet based. He messed up his listing, and he left one of the most important keywords out of the listing, and his sales tanked. And he's like, "What happened?" He goes back and like, "Oh my God, like the most important keyword, he had forgot to put it back in." So that was the beginning of Scribbles. Manny saw the need, like, "Oh my God, I don't want to do this again." We had access to developers. And so he reached out to one of the developers, and I told him, "Hey, create a tool that has all your keyword lists on the left. And as I'm building the listing and as moving things around, it makes sure that I don't forget a single keyword." So that was the first tool of Helium 10 was Scribbles. And Manny said, "Oh, this is good. We could actually sell this." And I told him, "Yes, we could, but let's not. Let's give it away." So because again, we're trying to build an audience and authority in the space. So Scribbles was originally hosted on the AMPM podcast website. And it was just enter your email address and then you could use it. So we did that, and people started noticing, oh, this is really cool. And there may have been other tools still.
You had Frankenstein after that, right?
Was Frankenstein?
I think Frankenstein was
in
next.
AMPM, or was it already under the Helium 10?
I don't remember. I don't remember where that one was, but I remember it was Scribbles, Frankenstein, then Index Checker was a third. And
I think those three, those may have been the first three tools, but that might have been already under the Helium 10 domain. But the fact is, we were going to an event that I had purchased before starting the AMPM podcast. And I had a +1, and I told Manny, hey, I'm going to LA to this event. Do you want to come? It was like a marketing event. It was all about building, setting up offline events. Mm-hmm. So Manny came with me, and I met up with him at his apartment in California. That was actually the first time Manny saw me, and he almost drove away. Apparently, he was intimidated by my thick eyebrows and my angry looks.
That's funny.
Which is I don't know, that's a tangent that we can touch on later. But so we were going to this event, and Manny was, hey, we're telling people that we're doing this podcast and we're building the tools, but the podcast is different from the tools. We should kind of separate one from the other. And that's when Helium 10 was born. Like the night before that event, we came up with the domain, with the name, and we printed business cards in LA. And right before the conference, we picked up the business cards, and Helium 10 was born at that moment before that event. And then you know the rest. It was a wild ride.
So I remember, you started off, and it was a credits-based system where you bought X number of credits, and that allowed you to do so many searches or so many processes or whatever. And I remember, like, when an index checker came, and you're like, we need to do something here, but we have this credits system. And I remember one night, because you were in Houston at the time, and you had just had a new baby, and you were like, I remember Manny in his apartment in Orange County, and Marianne bringing him like soups and stuff because it was on FaceTime or whatever we were using, or Zoom or something. And she'd be like constantly bringing food, because we'd be on these like 4 or 5 hour marathon calls. And I remember at one point you had to go in the closet in your living room, behind your wife's coats and dresses or whatever was in there, because just to get some quiet, because you had a newborn baby that was, crying. And you had to do a couple podcasts, I think, in there or something too. And we would sometimes, I remember one time till like 2 a.m, Texas time, Manny and I one time sat there and tried to break Index Checker, where we actually took like every letter in the alphabet that starts with a Z and like put it on an Amazon listing all over the place to see if it would pick it up, all these weird words that you normally wouldn't get picked up. And then I remember you came to Austin, and you're like, hey, we got this idea for this thing. We're going to call it the Illuminati. And it's this training, because there's other people at the time that were doing stuff charging like $10,000 or $15,000 or $25,000 to Amazon sellers to come to these masterminds, and people were paying it big, hand over fist back then. They don't do that anymore, but they were paying a hand over fist. And you're like, hey, we can start this thing. It's modeled after Ben Cummings, I think, had something that he was doing similar monthly. And you're like, we're going to charge $397 a month for it. It's going to be separate from our podcast and our tools. And Kevin, I remember you originally, like, we want you to come on and teach some stuff. I'm like, what am I getting paid? He's like, no, it's just good exposure for you, or something like that. I was like, no. If you want me to come on, and we got to do it. So we set up a partnership where it's 25, 25, 25, 25, I think. It was 25% to me, 25% to you, 25% to Manny, and 25% to like overhead or the company or whatever for hosting and credit card processing and all that. And that started in February of 2017. And to this day, Helium 10 Elite, I just did my last one in November here. So ever since then, every single month, it got changed from Illuminati to Helium 10 Elite in 2019, the name, and it kind of got rolled into one of the packages at Helium 10. but that's happened, and that's where that started. And I remember first time we did it, we did a webinar, and we like put like 300 or 400 people in there. Like it was like $100-something-thousand webinar. I'm like, holy smokes! And you guys, this is before Helium 10 took off. You're like, holy cow! And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you and Manny basically never took your percentages out. I think y'all are using that to help cash flow some of the Helium 10 growth initially, if I'm not mistaken. And then all of a sudden, and I think in summer of 2017, I believe, Helium 10 took off on this hockey stick growth. It just like exploded. And you guys had no time for Helium 10, for Illuminati anymore. And you're like, Kevin, because in the beginning, you and Manny were both on there. Manny would present something, I would do something, we'd have a guest. And then a few months later, like, dude, you just got to take this. We're really busy with our other stuff. And we would have these ebbs and flows. And it would be like, do a webinar and get 300 members. And then they would slowly trickle out. Credit cards would decline and everything. And we get down to like 100. Well, my 25% would go from 40 grand or whatever it was 1 month to like 15 grand or something. A few months later, I'm like, nah, I need my 40 grand again. And I'd reach out to you guys like, hey, we got to do another webinar. Like, no, we're busy. We got some other, we're building something else. Like, and finally, you guys were like, all right, we'll do a webinar. And so that was the growth of it. And then when you guys decided to sell and then worked with Scott and decided to move that into Helium, I think the rationale was like someone might not want that if they're a buyer, but if we roll it into a higher level package and include it and give them some extra tools and access to stuff, that would make more sense and give us more leverage when the company is sold. And so that's when it became Helium 10 Elite, and then we worked out an agreement that would be a flat rate every month for my piece, and that's continued on. But that was some interesting times. I remember going to something in Vegas. It's just one dime, I think it was, and you guys sponsored it. And I remember you and Manny going up on stage and doing something, and there's like 500 people in the room. And I remember afterwards, you're like, we had 400. These numbers aren't exact, but it was some crazy numbers like this. We had 430 of those people just sign up for Helium 10, to try it out or whatever. It was some crazy. You remember that? Some crazy number. It's just one dime event. And then it was crazy stuff that y'all were doing with Amazing, and with y'all were just like, everything you touched you're throwing Frisbees out on stages and like,
I remember that.
You remember all that? Like, yeah, it was really good marketing. And it wasn't that you were the only guys in town, because there was managed by Stats. Jungle Scout was coming up around that same time and was doing pretty well. You had that one guy that ripped everybody off, and I forget his name now, that had that one tool. You had sellers, all these Chinese-based tools. So what was it that you think attributed to why Helium 10 kind of rose to? It's basically you and Jungle Scout. You had Viral Launch back then. Why did Helium 10 rise to the top back then, back like 2017, 2018? What was it?
Man, that's a difficult question.
Well, I think it was the way luck. You guys executed. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's luck. There were some key partnerships.
I'll tell you why I say luck. This is not mine, but I've heard the definition. One of the definitions of luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of disjointedness in the Amazon space back then. There was a lot of tools all over the place, and there was the need to consolidate and bring people into one software suite to be able to manage their entire business. So I think we saw that opportunity. And when I say we, I'm generous. Manny is a brilliant dude. So there's I oftentimes get credit for a lot of his genius. So I'll take it. But he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah, he's a super smart guy.
So I think spotting that opportunity of, hey, this is all over the place and have to copy here and paste here and go here and research. So spotting that opportunity, and I guess that both Manny and my shared experiences of marketing in the past and positioning and doing the things that we had done prior to Helium 10 prepared us to kind of see that opportunity and grasp it. But there's a lot of things that happened to take Helium 10 to where it was.
In a short period. I mean, it's 3 years, but from the time it really,
Yeah,
about 3 years from the time it started to the time you guys exited for quite a bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that were incredibly important in this process, and obviously at one point in time, Amazing.com agreed to promote us. They were huge in the training space, so that definitely helped that growth and the awareness around Helium 10. There was also, you mentioned the fact that Man and I backed away from Illuminati. That was after attending an event here in Austin. I was a part of War Room Mastermind, and it was War Room was marketing, and they had some operations, and it was all about growing businesses. And there was one session that Richard Lidner, it was actually a breakout, not breakout, they called them intensives. So they had the quarterly meetings and they had intensives that they would do either in a hotel, or it was just a very small session. So Manny and I came here with Manny's now wife, and Manny actually got sick. He never went to this one session, but in that session, Richard talked about the book Four Disciplines of Execution, and I took copious notes. They gave us these big old posters, like not posters but paper, and it's like take notes in this paper. So something clicked in that session, and I went upstairs and I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, I know you're sick, but we're working right now. So I slapped these papers all over his room. He's like coughing and dying, and I'm like, we're working. So and at that point in time, we had roughly 6,000 paying members, and in that session, we laid out an initiative internally that was called 12K by 319. We were setting out to double the number of paying members by March of 2019. And one thing we noticed was that we were lacking focus. We were, there was a lot of authority in Helium 10. There was a lot of attention around it. We had a lot of kind of partner webinars, all good stuff, but it wasn't always pointing at the growth of Helium 10. It's like, hey, how can we help our customers, and what are some cool things that they can do? But it was not always.
Yes, you're doing like webinars for other people and taking like an affiliate commission,
Right?
And you're doing the you Manny, somewhere around that time stopped the podcast too, right? And
that may have been a little bit after that. I'm not sure, but the fact is, we decided, hey, we're going to focus on just growing Helium 10, and it was a laser focus. And we, one of the things that the book talks about is that if you go to a football game, like a high school football game, right? The scoreboard is super important, because without a scoreboard, people don't keep track of what's happening in the game, and they kind of get disengaged. Whenever you have a scoreboard and you can actually follow along with what's happening in the game, you're way more invested and more engaged. And that translates to our teams. So if they don't see how their individual efforts affect the score of the company, not just their own score, their team score, and the company score, they don't feel as strongly about what they're doing. But if you're able to help connect the dots for them, like, hey, this is how you're individually scored, and this is how your efforts affect the team's effort, and this is how the team effort is helping the company, and the current goal of the company is to double in number of paying users, and everything connects, then they're feeling more like they matter, which they do, right? So something clicked in that event, and so it's kind of set us in that path of like laser focus. We stopped doing affiliate promotions for anybody. I think we had one that we had committed to prior to that, and then we stopped everything forward and just focus on growing. So it's hard to answer why it happened, but there were some of these things that contributed to that growth.
Now, I remember too, you guys around 2017, as you're doing this big growth, and something I'll never forget, and I'm forever thankful to you and Manny for, is that in 2017, my company, I was managing 5 brands, and I was growing leaps and bounds. And back then, I had no rich uncle. I had no banks didn't talk to you. I didn't quite qualify for Amazon lending at that point because I think you had to have 1 year or 2 years. I forget what it was. I was right on the edge. And then Amazon lending finally came in, but it wasn't enough money. They gave me like $250,000 or something. It wasn't enough for me to keep the money going. So I took out all these crazy loans, from people that would give me loans at the time with high interest rates. And I was making payments of like $6,000 a day on some of these loans. And then at the same time, I was getting married, and the costs on this wedding in Colombia were getting out of hand. And I was kind of stuck. And so I remember coming to you guys and like, hey, any way I can get a advance, on my payments for the Helium 10 Illuminati at that point. Oh no, maybe it was Illuminati still on the Illuminati. And you guys, I remember you drew up a little. You said, "Yeah, let's talk about it." And you drew up a little agreement, and we were in Vegas at some other event. And I remember coming over to your place and like, you sign this, and then you wired 160 grand into my account. Just based on that. And I was like, man, these guys are badass. These guys, and I to this day, I still appreciate what you guys did on that. And the wedding, the wedding was nice. The marriage didn't work out, but I really appreciate you guys doing that, because you didn't have to do that. But you saw that my back was up against the wall, and you came in and helped. So I really appreciate that, Guy, what you guys did there. And then
I'm glad we could help, but as I mentioned before, it's not, you don't do those kind of things for just anyone. So we trusted you. We because we knew you needed it at the time, and you were good for it. So I'm glad that we could help at the time, and yeah, I mean it. There are some business deals that are just business deals, and I think what we have built with you is a friendship. So we knew you needed at a time. It was cool that.
So those
we
little
were in a
bottles of
position to
Fireball
help.
paid off. Me bribing you with little bottles of Fireball whiskey paid off.
Fireball, man,
Every time
those
we
were
went
the
to a conference,
times.
remember that? Every time we went to a conference, we bring these. It became a tradition. At first, it was kind of a joke,
Yeah,
and then these little Fireball cinnamon whiskeys. I don't even think it's actually real alcohol, or but it's yeah. We bring these little bottles, and it became like, how many could you drink or something at night after these conferences, and that became like the running thing at all of our events that we would just show up at. That was that was some good times.
we could have chosen something better than Fireball.
Yeah, I know we should have. Well, then Manny found that peanut butter. What's that peanut butter
Oh,
whiskey?
Screwball. Oh
Screwball.
my
Yeah, I wish
god.
we had little bottles of screw. Then it became like bottles of Screwball every time we got together. But
So
then
I haven't had a single drop of alcohol since June of 2024.
oh
But
wow.
Screwball, I still miss, man.
Yeah, that was some good stuff. I think I still have a bottle or two here, because I think I bought a case of it at one point. Just to make sure
It's so good. My
we had
wife
enough.
went into this health kick, and she stopped drinking like 3 years ago. Uh, and neither her nor I were ever heavy drinkers, just kind of social drinkers. But I started feeling it more, I guess, with age, and I would feel, oh, I had a couple of drinks last night, and it was just just not myself the next day. And as my kids are getting older, I also want to be an example for them, because it's words are cheap, right? So you can tell these kids do this, do that, and they're in one ear out the other. Kids do as they see. So I also wanted to be a better example. So I have completely cut out even Screwball out of my habits.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Setting a good example is always good. You remember we decided to do an event for Illuminati because everybody was doing these like $10,000 events, and we decided to do an event. And I remember Manny's like, "Oh, I know a great place." I went with my ex-girlfriend to this place in Mexico that has like rivers going through it, and let's do it there. So me, you, and him, and ended up Mark flew down there to do a check, and then in May of 2017, I think it was, we actually held the first event. Helium 10 event down in Cancun. I remember when we're doing this event, and you guys had the idea. I was like, oh yeah, I've done a bunch of these. I've done a whole bunch of events in the past. My buddy Mark is a photographer. We did like $1 million model search, and he could help us produce it. And I think Manny was like, no, I got this girl. She says she'll do the whole thing for $3,000. Or what I was like, Manny, I don't think that's what you want, but you're going to get what you pay for. But and then I convinced you guys somehow. I don't remember how to let Mark come in, and then we get down there, and you and Manny open the door, and Manny's like, "Holy cow!" And then the event gets pulled off. We end up doing another one in Hawaii about a year later, and that one Manny's like, "Here, Mark, just take it, run with it." And then when you guys exited Helium 10, you kind of set me up, to keep running the Helium 10 Elite and doing the Freedom Ticket and doing that kind of stuff. But the events were some pretty cool times. I mean, the one we did in Hawaii and the one in Cancun. I mean, we could sit here and tell stories all day long about that Cancun event with the power going out and,
My
and we
God.
having to fire the host halfway through it and everything. That's where I met my buddy Norm. He came to that event, and he and I do a podcast, and we have a business together now. So a lot of stuff came out of that those early days, and some of those people have moved on now and aren't in the business anymore, but some of those people are still around. So Helium 10 has made a huge impact on a lot of people's lives, and I remember just about a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago almost now, shooting the Freedom Ticket 4.0. So the first Freedom Ticket was done in 2017, and it was right before my wedding. And before I came to you guys to get that 160 grand, I was like, I need some more money. What can I do? And I was like, well, maybe I'll just do a course because there's just a lot of bull courses out there. So I'll just do a course. So we shot the first Freedom Ticket. I think you guys came up with the name, sent me the logo. Like, we're actually shooting. Hey, can you put this logo and push it up on the screen? And we're shooting it during a hurricane in Austin. Like, literally the 4 days we're shooting, there's a hurricane. The roof was shaking, and it was kind of a low budget kind of shoot. And that evolved into Freedom Ticket 2, 3, and 4 with updates and much more professional shooting. But I remember I was out in Irvine at shooting Freedom Ticket 4 with Bradley, and we went to an event for PackView. So if those of you don't know, what happened is a company called Assembly came in and purchased Helium 10. It was a venture capital basically type of company, came in and bought Helium 10 from you and Manny, and then they bought a couple other companies, rolled those kind of up, almost like a little mini aggregator. And then one of those companies that they bought was PackView, which was a big enterprise level PPC company run by Melissa Burdick and another person. And they a few years later, that became they did some shuffling on paperwork to raise some more money, and a whole little process there where now it's PackView. Assembly's kind of out of the picture, and PackView took it over and kind of bought out, and it's now PackView as a corporate name. So PackView was having this event in LA where they had all their sales reps from like all over the United States. There's like 100 something people at this mixer. And these are not only just the United States, all over the world. So there's people from Korea that were the PackView rep in Korea, and this one from Singapore, and this one from wherever. And Bradley and I went after we shot that day, and we just stood around in there. Nobody knew who the hell we were. Like one person, I think, Melissa, I did. Everybody else, we're just looking, and Bradley and I look at each other, and we're like, look at this. This is something that Manny and Guy built Started out as this little Scribbles thing, and now it's this huge corporate thing where there's like 100 people in here from all over the world, reps and representatives, and they have no idea who the founders, what started this whole thing or what went into it. And it was just kind of amazing. It's kind of one of those aha moments where like it was kind of cool to see like how this little helium 10 with Guy in his closet and Manny with his girl bringing soup to him evolved into this huge corporate entity now worth over $1.5 billion or whatever it is right now. And it's crazy. So how does that make you feel knowing that your little thing, or is that you've been removed enough now you don't really pay attention to it, or you still have a little stake, you probably pay a little bit of attention, but how does that make you feel seeing it, the evolution of everything?
It's humbling. It's cool, but it's also important to say. I'm saying Manny and Guy built this is unfair and completely ignores all the efforts of everybody that have actually built this thing. Even early on, there was a team of developers making this vision turning into reality. I still remember the early days of Helium 10. We hired Rich, which was our first hire. It was, and I believe he's still working with Helium 10. So it's little by little putting pieces to the puzzle and growing the team. So it feels great whenever the company goes way bigger than you as an individual. But it's not fair to say Manny and Guy built this thing. There's so many people that have done so many things right. There's also been a fair share of mistakes made by ourselves and the people who have taken it over. And that's just the nature of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of mistakes made, and it's just being okay with making mistakes and correcting them and changing course and kind of going with the flow. But yeah, it's really cool to see it. Now I could almost guarantee that I walk into the Helium 10 office and nobody knows who I am except maybe a couple people that were there in the WeWork days, and that's kind of cool. Whenever I can secretly say, "Hey, I used to work there before," you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that actually has happened to me a couple times. I'm a sucker for merch, so and having Helium 10 merch is cool to me because it's kind of a reminder of where I've been. And I've had my Helium 10 backpack on me before, and they're like, "Oh, you sell on Amazon?" I used to. That's all I say because there are some like I try to add value to conversations whenever I can, but I'm not one to enjoy being on the spotlight. So I'm the fact that I'm here talking to you is out of my comfort zone in that sense because by design, Manny would pull me in. Actually, I went back and checked at AMPM podcast when is the earliest episode I appeared in, and the earliest that I found was episode 20. But I don't know if I did something before that. But Manny kept trying to pull me into the podcast, and I kept like, no, you got it. So
The best one y'all ever did, you got, I think, is that April Fool's Day one.
oh
Or
God,
you guys came. I think I just interviewed. I was listening to the podcast before I interviewed because I found it interesting. Like you said earlier, Manny was sharing his numbers and how things were going. And I was like, this is kind of cool, kind of under the hood look. And y'all did an episode. And it was April Fool. I think it came out on April Fool's Day or right around April Fool's Day. And you got me because I remember actually calling Manny and saying, "What the hell?" And he's like, "Kevin." Tell everybody what that was. That was great.
man, we got so much heat for that because we just wanted to do something fun. So we did an episode of everything that's working right now in the Amazon space, and we really tried to make it as ridiculous as possible to make it very evident that this was just us messing around. Uh, and I don't remember everything that we said. I do remember that one of the things that converts, like increases your conversions by, I don't know, 300% is including uppercase sevens in your title. So, and we got messages like, what's an uppercase seven? How do I use it? So, at the very end of the episode, we say, hey guys, if you haven't noticed yet, check the date. Today's April Fool's. We're just having fun, blah, blah. It turns out people don't listen to the entire thing. They listened to something and they went right to trying to implement. And there was so much hate, like, hey, you guys are wasting our time, blah, blah, blah. Like, it ended up, I thought, I was thinking we had to delete it, but now I'm thinking that might still be there, but then we had to edit the audio file and change it to Manny warning him what you are about to listen was an April Fool's joke or something along those lines. Yeah, that's Manny's creative brain. Like he thinks outside the box. He's very, very, very creative. So we'll think about do that kind of thing. At one point in time, we also did the Helium infused beer. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. You were talking with a high pitched voice on the podcast.
Yeah. So we
Was,
we did the little video with helium infused beer, and people were, where do I get that?
but y'all did that in the off in the early days. You had the contest, right, with like hot sauce. Didn't y'all have like hot sauce contest? And you had the tequila room when y'all moved into Irvine. Like, so y'all always made it not just about the business, but you made it about having a little fun too.
We tried. I hope there are some of the early team members that have fond memories of those times. I certainly do, but things are maybe different from their place and our place. We tried to make things fun for the team as well. Because we were working hard. There was a lot of really long hours, really long days. I always say jokingly when people say, "Oh, you built from scratch and exited within 3 years." Yes, and it took us 10 years to do it, right? Because we worked so much during that time, so it felt like a really long time. So we tried to do cool things for the team during that 10K by 319. That I mentioned earlier, we had put stats on monitors, very, very visible for the team. And the goal was for them to be aware of the stats. And if anybody noticed a record-setting day, for example, they would grab this thing and like hit a gong. And if they were the first ones to hit the gong, they would get a bonus. And then there would be a spinning wheel of prizes. And some of the prizes were for like the entire team, like, hey, half day off on Friday, or we'll all go watch a movie, or things like that, to try to keep, like, break the monotony of the hard work. So I'm sure we made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we also tried hard to make it an enjoyable work environment.
So what led to you deciding to exit? I remember Manny, we were at a conference in Vegas. I can't remember which one it was, like 2018 maybe, late 2018. He came to me and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about selling the Illuminati?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if anybody will buy that." I say, and we're thinking about doing something with it. And then shortly after that, things started changing really rapidly. Where I think Scott Dietz came in. Actually, it was a Illuminati. I think it was an Illuminati monthly training, and Scott Dietz came on as a guest, and he was talking about the most money you make is when you exit your business. And I think y'all's approach to some things, or your perspective, changed a little bit after that, and things started switching. Can you kind of walk me through that process of what happened to lead up to the big exit in September of 2019?
Yeah. Manny approached me one day and he said, "Hey, how would you feel about exiting the business. And we were, like you said, hockey stick. There was hockey stick growth in the company, and things were happening. And my very recent financial struggles were kind of gone. As I mentioned, I was in a tough spot, and we were making money, and things were great. Um, but it was a space that was changing fast, and there was Amazon's a huge company, so there was definitely platform risk there. We were a software company for Amazon sellers, so if at any point Amazon decided to do something that could hurt our business, we would be left holding the bag, and you never know, right? But then there was also great signals of potential growth. So do we continue this, riding this rocket ship, or do we take chips off the table? Um, and I actually remembered my dad telling me one time, la ambición rompe el saco, which translates to ambition breaks the sack. So he was telling me the story of, hey, if a pirate goes in and finds a treasure and like starts filling his burlap sack with all the gold coins, he has to know when to stop filling, or else when he pulls up to take the loot away, the entire bag breaks, and he's left with nothing, right? So that lesson from my dad kind of started playing on repeat in the back of my head after Manny said this. Um, and yeah, talking to Scott, we started looking at potential deals, and it made sense for us at the time to take chips off the table. It was a life-changing amount of money. So you never know. I mean, if things would have been way better down the road. I mean, Baguio seems to be doing great, and things are growing, but I never know if we would have been in the same situation. That would take credit away from what they have done, and all the team that they have put in place. So that's kind of what led to things. And also, to be honest, man and I were tired, like really, really tired. We were working really long hours trying to make this thing work. So,
And you wanted to spend time with your family too. I mean, you have several young kids and a wife that were supporting you to do all this crazy amount of hours, but
yeah.
you didn't have as much time as you would like to spend with them either, I don't think.
Yeah, my kids were little. My wife was holding down the fort at home, and I was always trying to be there for the special occasions, but I was missing out on the day to day, because it's like I would be there for the PTA meetings and the school functions and that kind of thing, but I was working from 8 to 8, and I would call that a short day, you know. so so yeah, there was also a little bit of that burnout element. There was, as I say, taking chips off the table. It was like I said, a life-changing amount of money. So there's a lot of things. I cannot tell you it was the best decision, but it was the best decision at the time.
So a lot of people, I just had someone speak at my event in Iceland, my Elevate 360 event. She talked about a lot of entrepreneurs, when they hit that big exit, it's not everything it's cracked up to be. Yeah, it's life-changing money. You know, you don't got to worry about paying the rent or your kids going to college or whatever it may be. But it's almost like something's missing in your life. Like you're working these 8 to 8 or 8 to 12, you know, whatever. And it's like something is missing. And there's often, you know, sometimes people go into depression, or they bounce back and they get bored. They say, well, I'm going to go sit on the beach or go travel. And then they're like 3 months later, like, this is boring. I need another challenge. I need something else to do. How was that process for you. Manny, with both of you kind of withdrew from the space. You appeared here or there at a couple of things. You had to stay on for like 6 months. But then what was that transition? I know then you went into the Bulls and Apes and did that project when NFTs were kind of cracking, and y'all applied your creativity and your software skills to that. But what was that like, that hitting that big plateau and then like almost sometimes feel like you're almost crashing down, or am I worthy of this, or whatever the feelings may be? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, everybody talks about the big exit as the finish line. As an entrepreneur, that's what you're striving for. You're trying to grow and make a difference and eventually exit. And what I didn't realize is how much of my identity was tied to being an entrepreneur and truly to being a co-founder of Helium 10. So the moment that we exited, it's kind of like that part of my identity was gone. And then I was like, who am I? What am I now? Because people would ask me, what do you do for a living? Not a damn thing. I mean, like, it's like, and saying I'm retired at 40 felt weird. So it definitely took a while for me to kind of change the way I was thinking about myself. And truthfully, I did go into a depression, and then COVID hit, and I have health anxiety. So that depression and the not working and the health anxiety and looking at all the news and everything, it put me in a bad emotional state. And from the outside, you're probably thinking, wow, cry me a river, like in the like great situation. I'm so sorry about you. But unfortunately, money is not everything. And it put me in a really weird spot. And Manny was, come on, dude, like, he's always like uplifting and talking about, he sees the glass half full. So he's the one that was kind of pushing, let's do something together. So when NFTs came about, I didn't know anything about them, but he's like, all right, come on, dude, like we're starting this thing. You want in or not? We started that. Unfortunately, right after we started, things took, the market tanked for NFTs, and we're trying to do a lot of creative things. Like,
it was very creative. I mean, what y'all were doing was really cool.
I didn't know the space, and I didn't realize prior to like actually being in the thing how scammy, how kind of nasty the whole space was. There was a lot of issues there. We tried to we did the ETH back guarantee to try to, like, in Helium 10, our internally we told the team members, like, we don't want the customers' money unless they're thrilled to give it to us. So if they ever, we had maybe, I don't know, a 30-day money back guarantee or whatever in writing, but the team was always trained, like, hey, if you ask for your money back, just hand it to them. We wanted people thrilled about this. So I wanted to translate the same thing to the NFT space. So we had the ETH back guarantee, which people looked at us crazy, like, what do you mean? And we did things with the gamification, the creativity and everything. We added that real utility of, because Manny was really into the angel investing space with VC. So we tried to bring that into the equation. But ultimately, the market psychology is that kind of get rich quick and that mentality. And then things change in the market as a whole. So that it's kind of show. I don't know if I can say that here, but it was a mess, man. And ultimately, we had to hand the product back to the team for the team to run with the community. But it was not. It was a lesson. So I always try to look at my failures or mistakes as lessons. That was definitely a lesson to be learned. Because whenever you're in entrepreneurship, you cannot let the mistakes and the failures define you. You have to learn from them and iterate, and always try to learn from your previous mistakes and course correct and do things differently in the new ventures. But it's, I mean, if you're not comfortable with failure as an entrepreneur, then go get a job.
So just recently, I know you started the company with your brother that does some Disney stuff for the Latin American market, and you got that going, and you've been doing just some investing and things. But you recently, you and I and Mark and your daughter went to a couple different events in the marketing space, and you're kind of helping her kind of discover what she might want to be doing. But just by being exposed to some of that stuff, does that kind of re-energize you or remotivate you a little bit to like, hey, maybe I want to do something here with this AI stuff, or maybe I want to do something here with this, or is that kind of like getting some juices back, or you're like, yeah, I'm kind of done that. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to go to the ranch and ride four wheelers, and let my
Yeah.
daughter make her own way, and I'll support her. What what do you think? What do you think the big opportunities are out there right now? I mean, and from just your outside view, I know you're not deep in the weeds a lot of this right now, but for people in the ecom business that are listening to this, or people that are just entrepreneurs in general, what do you think are some big opportunities that people might want to pay attention to?
Yeah, I'm not in the outside anymore, Kevin. We're back in the startup grind. So Manny and I have partnered up. So again, we're doing this thing with AI.
Is that the video stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
We can go back to that. But this morning I was thinking I want to go buy a domain. Man, I was thinking about it. The homeless genie is what I was thinking. Or maybe I
Homeless
need to go,
genie.
because here's the thing. I don't think the AI genie is going back to the bottle. Like, the genie is officially homeless. He'll never go back to the bottle because AI is just changing the space. Like, every space is going to change with AI, I believe. And you can be one of those naysayers and like, no, you're wrong. But I think the writing is in the wall, and every business that out there is going to in some way be influenced by AI. Some perhaps more than others, but if you're resisting it, I think you're becoming obsolete fast. So I wanted to bring my daughter to this event because she just graduated high school. She's starting college. She went and got a job at Target. Kind of hated it. Quit before I could talk to her. So I'm like, look, there's having a job is difficult. Being an entrepreneur is difficult. So you gotta choose which difficulty you want. They're all difficult. Life's hard, and there's you just kind of choose your hard. Like being. So I wanted to expose her to some of these opportunities, and being in the room with people that are playing the game can open your eyes. I was not in one of those rooms for a long time. I wanted to be. I just couldn't afford to be in those rooms. So I wanted to bring her and kind of expose her to conversations and to talks from people that are actually changing the world from their little corner of the world, right? So what's in the future? I believe AI is going to majorly change how things are done, and that's what we're trying to do. Like um, the little video thing that I was telling you, yeah, Manny and I are starting Kreator.ai, so creator with a K, kind of like Kevin King. So Kreator.ai, our goal is to make marketing more effective for 7 and 8 figure e-commerce brands. And we're starting with commerce just because that's what we know, but I think this can have applications in many different verticals by leveraging existing video models and injecting some of our marketing know-how. I think we can make creative that actually scales. We've had conversations with e-commerce brand founders that hit that wall. Like they find a creative that works. When they turn up the volume, it like stops working. It doesn't scale well, and it's a lot of time and effort and investment to produce these ads consistently. So our goal is to help them with AI get more at bats and get more video ads out there so that they can iterate quickly and find those winners faster. So we'll be working with that, and we're actually working with Matt Clark from Amazing. So he's also part of Kreator. So he's very much like he has the finger on the pulse because he's running large e-commerce brands, so he understands the needs. So that's what we're working on right now, and man, it's hard to keep up with the changes. So there's
It's like
so
every
much.
day. Yeah, it's like every day is something new.
Every day there's something new, and there's a new breakthrough, and there's a new model, and uh, so I'm actually considering following your footsteps and putting together a newsletter for all things AI and marketing. How AI helps the marketing of e-commerce brands. So that's something that I think people can look forward to shortly, because I feel like the newsletter forces you to be up to date with everything that's
It
happening.
does. Yeah, I'm more up to date on everything: AI, e-commerce, Shopify, video production than I would if I wasn't doing a newsletter twice a week.
Yeah, so we're still in pre-alpha with Kreator, and then, again, Kreator.ai with a K, and we will probably open up a wait list for people that we'll have to curate who gets to play with it at first. But yeah, it's so I'm no longer retired, Kevin. I'm back to the startup
Back to
grind.
the startup grind
Yeah.
again. I love it. I love it. It's like someone asked me the other day, it's like, Kevin, if you, because I haven't had a big exit, you guys are like my goal, my idol or whatever. Like I want to own these exits. So I'm building Dragon. You can't really, it's hard to exit a newsletter business, hard to exit, Helium 10, I never had any ownership or anything. And so, I've been basically like an independent contractor, not an employee, but independent contractor, and just getting paid. And it's been nice. And you guys definitely took care of me there. But, and then my own brands, I have one that I could exit, but it's not one of these, life-changing exits. So that's what I'm doing with Dragonfish right now with Norm is we partnered up and we're specializing in email marketing because most e-commerce people have no clue how to properly do email. And this is not newsletters. This is actually helping them sell products through email and build lists and stuff. And then we're doing AEO, the AI side of things to get them into all the search engines and all the LLMs and everything, and optimized on Amazon as well, like with Rufus and Cosmo. So those two things. And we think, we can build that. We have 100 at the time of this recording, 146 people on a wait list, and we just took our first 5 beta clients. We're kind of building the plane as we fly it, but we think that can grow, and maybe I can have a big exit and buy a ranch next to yours. Buy that extra piece of property that's sitting out there next to your ranch, and that would be nice. But hey, Gia, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing with me and being taking the honor to be my last guest. That's really, I really appreciate it, and really appreciate you coming on and sharing and getting outside of your comfort zone and doing this to help me wrap up my Helium 10, my journey that's completely over. It's been a good ride. It's been a lot of fun, learned a lot, but it's time to move on. And I really appreciate you coming on and helping me close this out in the right way.
And thank you again for the invitation. And on behalf of everybody that has ever listened to you speak at events, in the podcast, in everywhere where you have appeared, I want to thank you for what you've done for every one of those brands, every one of the people that work for those brands. Sometimes you're there in your little nook of the world and speaking behind a computer, but it's hard to appreciate the level of impact that you have on people. And I know, I mean, people have no clue who Guy is, but everybody knows Kevin King. So I think you've done amazing. So congrats on that, and thank you for always being there for everybody and being relevant and up to date with all the information. So you've done a great job. I'm sure there's a lot of future ahead for you. But yeah, man, I can't wait until we share another non-alcoholic drink.
We'll go virgin fireballs. Fireballs.
Yeah, fireballs. Man, that's gonna be like cinnamon tea or something.
Yeah, cinnamon tea.
yeah. But yeah, we need to hang out, Kevin. I know you still haven't been to the ranch. We need to get you driving one of those side by sides and see
for sure
how that feels. But thank you again. Send my best to Norm on the other podcast, and I know that Mel is probably going to be editing this video. He was another one of the Helium 10 OGs. So what's up, Mel? Thank
awesome,
you.
man.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
That was great. Awesome conversation with Guillermo. Really good guy, a really good entrepreneur, really sharp guy. One of the best men I know. So I hope this was a little bit of a look inside for you, inside the how Helium 10 got up and rolling and how it's rocking and rolling now, and how a little company that Manny and Guillermo built has then been taken over by others and grown into even a more massive company. I want to say thanks to everybody who at Helium 10 who's been working with me along the way. Appreciate it, Mel, all the hard work that you've done editing this podcast over the years and taking out all my ums and ahs and all my mess ups. Thanks to Bradley for helping make this happen and for his support over at Helium 10 on the Freedom Ticket and making sure I didn't say cuss words and babysitting me on each one of those to make sure I was a good boy, because sometimes I can actually not be a good boy. And to Carrie Miller and to Shivali, who have also come on and helped, to all of you that are in the Helium 10 Elite, and to the team, Francis, and some of those that have helped with the Helium 10 Elite. Appreciate all your help and assistance there. If you want to still stay in touch, subscribe to my newsletter, billiondollarsellers.com. It's free every Monday and Thursday. I have the $1 Billion Seller Summit, big event coming up in Nashville in April 8th to the 12th. About 700 people or so will be at that event. And then I also have the Marketing Misfits podcast as well with Norm. So I'm not leaving the podcasting world, just moving on to a separate thing on my own with Norm. So thanks again to everybody who's made this possible. Thanks for everybody who's been joining me along this Helium 10 and AM/PM podcast journey. And we'll see you all around. Take care.